All right, guys, I'll call our special meeting to order at 6:30 PM, August 17th, 2026. This is a public hearing in regards to a potential ordinance violation slash abatement of nuisance. We got a full board tonight, so we can move right into the agenda. Like I said, new business. The only item is public hearing on abatement of nuisance. So how this will work out is, Dan, I believe you'll come up. You'll kind of give us a background on what you're looking at. Mr. Scotty will give you a chance to come up and kind of say your side of the story. If we get to the point that there is indeed, in your opinion, an ordinance violation, we'll need you to move on that, and then we'll move forward after that, okay? So Dan, if you would, you can come on up.
Evening, gentlemen. I had written, I think you have a copy of it, but I might just read it if that would seem appropriate. Just in a general sense, without getting into too much of the details. The following is a basic summary of the nuisance located at 109 4th Street Northeast. The enclosed pictures again shows the lack of progress from the last abatement, which took place in October 4th of 24. At that time, the abatement was set up with a contractor to clean up the property as per order. Scott did not do anything to remove or clean up the property, but on the day the contractor showed up to start the abatement, Scott and girlfriend were at the property to stop the process. The police had been notified earlier of any possible infringements or protests from Scott. The commission president and Dan Larson were called out to the property. Following discussion with Scott, we compromised on what the city will abate and to what Scott wanted to keep for additional time for Scott to remove the items and to move out of the property. Since March 20th of 25, the water was shut off for non-payment and has not been turned on since. At some point in time, the electricity was also shut off and the meter was removed. The property has not been occupied since around January of 25 or before. Scott had signed an agreement which is enclosed in your packet on October 4th of 24, the same date as the abatement that took place, stating that the effect that moving out of the property, cleaning up the property, there has been very little removal of items since, with the exception of, I believe, one vehicle was removed from the rear of the property and maybe some other incidental items had been possibly removed. It has also been observed that Scott was taking furniture out and household items out of the home last fall and maybe some this spring. So kind of in summary, trying to just paint a general picture given the evidence and the documentations that is before you, is the intent was to give him time to move things out and clean things up, because there was supposedly an agreement or working on an agreement to purchase some property for him to move out to. And I don't know if that has happened or not, but just the intent of getting it cleaned up, and we're nearing 2 years from then, I think is more than ample time to get things cleaned up and to get it, come to a conclusion. And I just haven't seen the movement on that towards that goal.
Okay. Guys, you got questions for Dan? Okay, thank you. Mr. Scott, if you would.
Yeah, first of all, the agreement was made 2 years ago, and the place has not been abandoned or whatever since then. I only moved out of there in January, when I moved my mother from Tennessee to here. So I don't know what, it means that there's been no movement there. And as far as the furniture goes, yeah, I've given away furniture to friends that I don't need anymore because, and don't need it, and I didn't know there's anything wrong with that. But to say that there's no improvement on that property since then is ridiculous. The place is all cleaned up. My stuff is stacked up. I have a privacy fence that's hiding most of the junk that other people will call junk. I call it, money because it is recyclable metal that I just haven't had time to take in yet, but you can't see it from the road. Dan went up over the fence to take a picture of stuff that's in my property behind the privacy fence. And, I don't know why he wants to do that, but the rest of it, I've been keeping up on the grass. The two vehicles that I have, they are both legal. Doesn't matter if they run or not, they're both legal vehicles. I've got a couple of things in my driveway that I haven't had time to get, but, for the most part, I've been over there as often as I can, keeping up on the grass. I've got all the stuff that was in front of the shed. I've got all that cleaned up. Anybody can go right by there and look at it. And the pictures that he sent me the last time, I would use those if I was trying to sell the property. They look so good. The long shot of it. So I don't understand why he's still saying it's a nuisance. It looks 1,000% better than what he did when I bought it, and any of the neighbors will tell you that.
Well, you gotta go easy on the pony. Eventually, it's gonna be all the way up here.
So, I just, I don't want city workers and the contractor was city workers came in and, for 2 hours charged me, like $1,200 or whatever, which is a ridiculous thing. Maybe the city should be a contractor, billing out prices like that because, it doesn't cost the city $160 an hour to pay city workers, even with their benefit package and everything. So I don't know why I got charged so much. And, when I pay my taxes, I'm gonna pay just the taxes and, argue the, assessment part for as long as I can anyway. Because, that's, they showed up with a truck and a trailer and I put the things in there that, that they wanted in there, just to satisfy them, a couple of pallets and stuff like that. But the stuff that I had then has all been moved, okay? A friend of mine's farm has a bunch of the metal that I had out there that's all still usable that I plan to use to, the guy that was supposed to buy it since that came up. He didn't fulfill the contract, and I'm gonna give him one more chance, to pay off, he gave me a down payment on it. Made payment arrangements, defaulted on the payment arrangements. He called me earlier this month, told me he was gonna pay it off on the 15th, and here we are, and I haven't got a phone call from him or any money or whatever. So my plan is to fix it up and, keep it for rental properties, you can't go wrong with real estate. Unless I have to keep dealing with things. But, I don't live there anymore, so it'll be a lot easier to fix it up, on my time off, from working, which isn't, until it gets cold out. But, yeah, I just, the property looks way better than it did the day I moved in on it, way better. It looks way better than the day when, Brett was there and, the police and everything, when Josh was there. On that day, because the stuff he had listed back then was just ridiculous. And even the pictures, I don't know. He didn't list much of anything this time except for, the stuff in front of the shed, the, shingles and some other construction material that I have since moved. I've got a few things in the driveway that I do want to get moved. I just haven't had the time yet, but I'll stop there today and, load up the fence. I got a roll fence here that I'm gonna, take out of the driveway today and, whatever else will fit in my van without blocking my tools. And that's, that's all I have. I just don't see how, I feel like I'm being harassed, for no reason because, the place looks better, And I say that construction material to fix it up. I just don't have the time. And, as, luck would have it when I was staying there and I had the time, it would be pouring down rain, and you can't do anything outside when it's raining, so. And I'm doing the best I can. I'm not trying to give anybody a hard time, I just want to be left alone about it. And I do understand the ordinances about, cutting the grass and everything. And I know that when I was out of town working, it would get out of hand, but, this year it hasn't got out of hand at all. I've been, on it, since spring when it started growing. So that, yeah, that's all I have.
Do you have any questions for Scotty? I've got familiarity with this. So this goes back quite a ways. That October timeframe with the contract, that was pretty generous all in itself, because this goes back to June 17th of 2024.
Okay.
I was at the abatement hearing.
Right.
Over 2 years ago.
Yeah, I was out of town. I was on the phone.
Right, yep. And I feel like, our former commission president, Litton, and Tim Christensen, I believe, was on the phone as well. Like they were very, very generous with you. They had a lot of empathy, gave you some time. And at the time, I think the fix was just to put a fence up around the property, right? Just to kind of,
Right.
so some of the clutter wasn't front and center on all the people driving by and the neighbors and whatnot.
Right.
And then there was a little confusion on that because if I remember right, you made a fence out of like pallets
Well,
and recycled tin or something along those
One
lines.
side of the shed, yes, but it was, painted, it wasn't rusted, I mean, it was, and then on the other side was fence panels, on the front side and the east side of the trailer,
Mhm.
were white fence panels, I mean, there was nothing wrong with those.
And then,
Over time, they've gotten broke and, a couple of the pickets or whatever, have been broke, but, it was a fence,
and then fast forwarding, then I met with Dan down at your property with Sergeant Litton at the time because things were starting to get a little bit
Is that
hostile.
Josh?
Josh was there also.
Okay.
Yep, Josh, Sarah, Dan, and myself
Right, okay.
about removing some of the stuff. And that's when you said like, hey, I'm looking to get out of this property.
Right,
Can you give me some time to put something together so I can relocate, right?
yeah, that particular deal fell through.
So all in, we're like well over 2 years into this.
Mhm.
And I don't want you to feel like you're being harassed or anything. 2 years is a long time.
It is, but it looks better than it did even that day, it looks better than it did the day I moved in. And, I mean, there's, ask any of the neighbors and they'll, tell you that it looks better than, when I bought it, and it looks better now than when I got this last nuisance, notice.
Okay, so be that as it may, because better is kind of a relative term. Like at what point does it get up to standards that
Right,
abide by city ordinance, right?
Okay.
Is that another year, 2 years, 3 years, or never?
right,
And I think that's why we're here tonight is just to try to figure out like when is better gonna be good enough that will
Right.
follow our city ordinance,
okay,
correct? So, I mean, just some highlighted stuff from the ordinance itself.
the most
It's
recent
uh,
one,
inoperative vehicles.
they're legal though, which, the legal vehicles in my name. What's the difference if it's operable or not, I don't understand that. Cause it was, which, an operable vehicle sitting in the same place for the same amount of time, but they're legal vehicles in my name.
Okay, litter, debris, trash, garbage, lumber, junk, trash, or salvage
And that's
materials, which all,
Too, but
all-
there's not a lot of that left there anymore. I have picked it up and moved it. I've been using it and, there's not much lumber left. There's a little bit and I will get rid of it, but the majority of those things that are listed are gone. So I'm gonna go out there right now and look at it, There's still some, there's one pile in the backyard that, I gotta run to the dump. It's lumber that's not even usable anymore. But, all the other stacks are gone, I mean, I've moved them,
sure. No, I get what you're saying. You got to understand where I'm coming from too, is, everybody's had a great deal of empathy that has strung out for multiple years now.
right?
And one of the harder decisions any human has to make is deciding when, enough is enough.
Right.
And that's why we're here tonight.
So when, where's the list of how much stuff I can't have there? Neatly stacked and stored or whatever, or, that's what's, a matter of opinion, like, the stuff that I have next to my shed that so bothers Dan, it's, not enough to run to the scrapyard right now per se, but it is money and it's a hobby of mine that I enjoy doing, is collecting scrap metal and upgrading it. And then, when I need to or want to, I take it to the scrapyard. But you can't see any of that stuff from the road. There is there's a wooden fence in the front and a metal one, down the side that's right next to my shed, well within my property line that's hiding that stuff. You have to literally walk up there and look over the fence to see any of it. And, and the other stuff, I grab something, every time I come into town, which isn't every day, but it's a couple of times a week. And I know the driveway itself looks messy, and I'm still working on that, you know, it's, and I'm gonna go get a load out of the driveway today. You know, so I mean, I am working on it. I don't know the answer you know, to you guys' dilemma. It's everybody's dilemma here, but, you know, I just don't want to continue to be, you know, I want to know exactly what I need to do, you know, and where the boundaries are, you know, and I'll do my best to get to those. And then if I can't, then at least I knew what they were and I can't be mad about it at anybody but myself, you know?
Dan, have you provided Scott a copy of the list of items, the highlighted list of items?
He has, I don't have it with me, but he has, but
So,
those are the things that I'm arguing about too, though, because, you know, the things that are next to my shed behind the fence, how can he tell me what I can have and what I can't have behind a fence on private property? You know, there's nothing there that's a danger to anybody, you know, and you have to be at the fence looking over it to see it, you know? And that's the stuff that I'm worried about, you know, where is that line drawn at? The stuff on the other side it's almost cleaned up, man, and it'll be cleaned up in short time, you know? And I've been keeping up on the grass, you know, weeding along the side of the trailer, you know? So I just don't know where that line is, you know, and I need to, you know, I mean, you know, because it's, the first time he listed a snow blower. The only snow blower I had was a brand spanking new Husqvarna that you had to be standing in my front door and look to the right to see it. You could see it from anywhere else. But who in North Dakota, you know, isn't allowed to have a snow blower in their driveway? And that was one of the things listed on the original nuisance. And ladders. You know, where's the law on how many ladders a carpenter can have? You know, I mean, you know, those were the things that were listed on the first one that aren't there anymore. You know, I think so snow blower, it wasn't self-propelled. You know, and you know, and the ladders, you know, I've well, two of them got burned up in the fire last year where I had them on a job that got burned. But the rest of my ladders, you know, are on my van right now or inside of it. You know, but I mean, like that's where it's, you know, a matter of opinion, you know, why do those things even get put up as part of a nuisance, you know? I mean, I'm a carpenter, I'm allowed to have ladders, aren't I? You know?
No, I get it. I understand where you're coming from too. I just don't think there was ever really something clear and definitive on like, hey, this is out of control. You have to clean everything up or organize something and keep a little bit of each or whatever. I don't.
Right. And I wish we had before, you know, pictures from back then, because I guarantee anybody looking at pictures of then and now are gonna say there's a, you know, a major improvement, you know? There's, you know, I mean, I had all kinds of stuff along the side of the house that's not there no more, on both sides, east and west side of it, you know, so,
He has cleaned it up a bunch.
Okay.
Yeah.
you know.
So
He hasn't even done to it, he is pretty well.
okay, so balls in your guys' court. I mean, do you feel like we have an ordinance violation here? But Scott, I'll be honest, like I said, I know that there has just been loads of empathy for your situation. And I know you work a lot and you don't have tons of time, and maybe that's why we're at where we are today, is there just hasn't been like a real deadline, like you have 30 days to get this done.
Right.
Other than one time, there was a deadline put down.
Mhm.
We had a contractor come with a dump trailer and a truck and was ready to start loading stuff up, and that's when everything went sideways. And that's how I ended up at your house.
Right,
I think there has to be some positive yardage gained here with the timeline established too. Right, fellas, I'm gonna lean on you.
So I guess I just have a few questions. One of the photos we have here, I mean, yes, there are some scrap metal and things like that, but there's some propane tanks that are just kind of scattered all over. Some pallets are laying all over. You got wood laying all over, some used tires. The siding on the trailer is gone. There's some bikes laying there, bunch of leaves, branches, dish equipment, things like that.
Most of those have been cleaned up already. Most of, not all, there's,
But as far as cleaning up, so is there a way to tidy up the items more? As
Yeah.
far as like, I get you may want to use the lumber, but in this photo here, there's propane tanks scattered all over the place.
most of those are gone too. I still have a couple there that I will get rid of. But, most of the propane tanks are all gone. I have a couple in the backyard on my slab right next to the trailer still, but, those aren't the ones you're talking about. You're talking about the ones up front in the
Correct.
driveway, and I will get those out. And I have a bunch of construction material underneath the black tarp there that, I plan to get out of there, just as soon as possible. I'm gonna be using it soon.
Can any of this stuff be moved not street side? So that it's not your line of sight when you're at the park, say your little kids or
Yeah.
families playing that.
Yeah, so that's been my goal. That's what I've been working on, is that line of sight from the Hollywood side is what I call it. And there's been improvements, and we'll continue to get the rest, cleaner, the driveway itself is still the messiest part, and it looks better than it did, just a couple months ago. And like I said, I'm gonna continue to work on that, I'll get a bunch of that stuff done too, There was a stack of cinder blocks that was there, that's all gone. I mean, there might be a couple there left, but, for the most part, they're all gone. The stuff that's to the left of my door, there's an old wagon that's all rusted and stuff, and a wheelbarrow or whatever. I'm gonna get rid of all that stuff too. I haven't done it yet, but, I've been getting loads out of there just as often as I can. So yes, I will get that cleaned up.
So what does your timeline look like to be able to tidy things up even more than what they are? I mean, because we're August 17th as of today.
Mhm.
What does your vision look like? Couple months, a month?
Got at least a couple of months. I mean, the company I work for, the contractor I work for now, we just now got the okay to go out of town to do jobs that, we do out of town, and we're gonna go do our first one next Monday. So, depending on how they go, depends on, how much I'll be here. But this coming week, I will get at least a couple of loads done and, stuff moved so that it's not, in sight, before I even go out of town next Sunday, so. But yeah, a couple of months, I believe I can, get the whole, visible side cleaned up. And and on the west side, I'll get that skirting, repaired where there's a hole in the, in the skirting and whatnot. I have the material to do that, I just haven't had the time,
All right, guys, what do you think? I know we got another meeting coming up here pretty soon. Do you feel like there is in fact an ordinance violation? Do you want to set terms for abatement? Or are we just going with good faith and see how things go again?
I do find that there is a nuisance violation in regard to this property.
What do I need to do to correct that?
Okay, so there's methods for abatement, so they'll be properly remove all items described in the notice from the property for proper storage to scrapyard or any suitable site for processing as scrap or salvage. B would be properly disposed of at landfill or suitable site for disposal and autos towed to impound lot, scrapyard, or other suitable site.
And what about legal vehicles? That's where there's a discrepancy. How can my legal vehicles be a nuisance that I've got to move off of my property?
If they're legal, I can confidently say they're fine, right?
Okay. They are both legal.
You gotta be legal, operable. If they need to be moved, you can move them.
if they need to be moved, I can move them, yes. But they're both legal in my name.
And then C, repair window in order to remove plywood covering, properly skirt the skirting opening, or properly remove single wide from the property. That would be the worst.
From the property?
The house in its
Oh.
entirety.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. I mean, I could fix the window and the skirting, but, you know, I don't have the money to, you know, to remove it, and, you know, it's perfectly livable. So, you know, a window and skirting that, you know, could cause for, you know, demolition. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me.
No, you can see though that we've been talking about this for over 2 years.
Right, but yeah,
Something's
no,
gotta
it
give,
it
right?
didn't come up that, you know, I had to get rid of the trailer. You know, that's never come up before. I mean, we're talking a window and skirting now, you know, I mean, you know, that stuff wasn't even mentioned before. I mean, the outside repairs, yes, but, you know, and I know about the skirting, and the window's been that way for 10 years probably. You know, now all of a sudden, you know, you're gonna make me get rid of the trailer because of a broken window? I mean, I'll go put a window in it. I have windows, you know, I just, again, with the time.
I think you're focusing on worst case scenario here. You've got to make the steps. You have got to
I
make
need
the
to know what
steps.
to do, so that, you know,
We're telling.
it's resolved, and hopefully, you know, it doesn't come about again.
We're,
You know, I
we're,
mean,
we're,
'cause
we're trying to relay that to
I
you
know,
right
I
now.
understand that, and
I don't know if you do. I'm trying to relay to you exactly what you need to do to prevent worst case
Okay,
scenario.
right, that's what I
So-
want to know, yes.
Kyle, do you got a timeline in mind on when you want to see some positive yardage gained here?
There's such an ambiguous, and I'm not, I want to understand, and I want to do it, but words like that are so ambiguous, like they're so interpretive to an opinion. I need to know facts, what I have to do, not, you know, if it looks better to somebody, you know, because, it already looks better to a whole bunch of people.
I
You
wouldn't
know,
say a
so,
whole bunch.
you know, where does the opinion stop and the facts? You know, is what, you know, is what I'd like to know, you know, and I'm not giving anybody a hard time. I need to understand that. Because what looks ugly to somebody doesn't look ugly to somebody else, you know, and where that line is drawn at, you know, is, really what we're talking about here for the whole thing.
Scott, I hate to
Yes,
interrupt you,
ma'am?
but yep, the commission will have another meeting shortly. So if I might just suggest to you, while they finish discussing this, I think they're trying to tell you what they expect, but you have to listen. So let the commission finish talking, and then maybe you have a better idea of what they're telling you. Just
Okay.
stand by. Go ahead.
Okay,
Okay, Scott, so all the things that Dan gave you that are highlighted, you need to work with him, make sure all that's rectified. Have him clear everything, like Dan will tell me when it's done. And that's how we're gonna move forward. I would say 30 days is more than enough time.
I would say it's not. I just told you I'm going out of town for 1 week of those next week. What is wrong with 2 months? You know?
The problem with 2 months is this has been 2 years and what, 4 months?
And that's,
There has never been a definitive timeline given to you. I'm trying to suggest one.
there was a definitive timeline given to me before when I had to clean it up, and, you know, and I didn't make it that time because I was, you know, working out of town a lot, and, you know, and I didn't make it last time, but there was a definitive line. That's why we were there last time, because that was the definitive line.
And that was October 4th, 24,
Right.
almost 2 years ago.
No, Frank.
So I'll make a motion, I will make a motion that we give Scott 1 month, September 21st of 2026, to clean these items up.
That date one more time, Kyle.
It is September 21st, 2026.
Okay.
It's our commission meeting.
I'll second. All right, we got a motion and a second to allow Scotty 1 month to clean up these items on the preservation and improvement ordinance. Any discussion on that? And again, that's September 21st, 2026. All right, let's vote.
Yes. No.
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 Yes, so motion fails. Anything else you guys want to talk about here?
Well, I mean, I think we could give them I think we could give them to October. Second meeting in October. I think that'd be fine. If he says 1 month ain't enough, then 2 months is enough, and 2 months, it's gonna be better, like,
So that's October 19th. Okay, still entertaining motions.
I'll make a motion that, we hold Scotty to his word, and he's gonna have everything cleaned up that's highlighted and okayed with Dan by our second meeting in September. Got a date on that? Anybody?
It's October 19th.
October 19th.
I'll second that.
All right, we got a motion and a second to allow Scotty until October 19th to remediate all the things that are highlighted in this ordinance violation. Any discussion on that one? Okay, let's vote.
No.
Yes.
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 And no. Motion carries though. Okay, that's it for the hearing. We'll need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to adjourn. Let's vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, motion carries. We're adjourned at 7:01 PM.